Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk, this Tuesday edition on Focal Point. Just a programming note, on Thursday and Friday, July 4 and July 5th, we'll have special programming here in this slot. And by the way, just as a point of information, coming up on my 4th anniversary here at the slate gray mic of the Focal Point broadcast program, July 6, 2009, my first day behind the mic here in the Focal Point studio. So that's coming up this weekend. Monday, I will be officially starting that would be my 5th year. Now, a couple of items before we get into what's going on in the state of Texas and their battle over the sanctity of human life. We brought you the story earlier last week about a youth program in Louisiana, Bossier Parish. Anybody tell me how you say that? Is it Bossier Parish? Anybody know in Louisiana? Bossier Parish. I'm not sure how you say it. You got some Cajun French stuff going on down there. But anyway, there was a sheriff down there that had a program called Young Marines. And remember, they had voluntary prayer. Their oath included a specific mention of God. This was a program for troubled youth, pulling them out of trouble, redirecting their path. Great program, similar in a lot of ways to the Boy Scouts, only this was a program that was targeted for at-risk youth. And the Department of Justice say, hey, if you're going to have prayer as a part of this, if you're going to mention God as a part of this, we're yanking our funding. You're not getting $1 from us. That's Eric Holder, our godless, anti-Christian head attorney general. Now, in good news here, a rally has been planned to support, is it Bossier? Is that what it is, Rob? Bossier Parish? Bossier. A rally has been planned to support Bossier Sheriff Julian Whittington's refusal to remove religion from the youth program sponsored by the Bossier Sheriff's Office. The In God We Trust rally is set for July 4. That'll be this Thursday, of course, from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Bossier Sheriff's Office Viking Drive substation. According to a release from the Sheriff's Office, attendees are invited to sign a pledge showing support for the In God We Trust campaign, and American flags will be available for those who wish to show their patriotism. So this is kind of from the Winnable War files. The people in Bossier, Louisiana, Bossier Parish, Louisiana, not going to take that lion down. They're going to strike back by rallying in support of the sheriff on Independence Day. Terrific day to do it. You might be familiar with Brian Bosworth. He signed a $55 million contract back in 1987 with the Seattle Seahawks. He was a linebacker from Oklahoma, was an outstanding talent as a football player, suffered a shoulder injury just several years into his career. That was it for his NFL career. He then turned to acting. I've never seen any of his movies, but I understand from everything I've read about him that they're pretty much all turkeys, the ones that he's made up until now. But it turns out that he has literally had a come to Jesus meeting and is now a believer in Jesus Christ and is now involved in film projects that are designed to introduce people to Christian faith. And here's what he said about his past. It's not that I didn't, and here's a guy, remember we prayed today that God would teach us to number our days. That's what's happened to Brian Bosworth. God is teaching him to number his days, to evaluate his life, and to do the things that are going to count not just for time, but for eternity. And that's part of numbering our days, by the way. You know, we went over that survey that was done by that hospice nurse who was with people in the last days of their lives and asking them what their regrets were. You know, and you could kind of wrap up all their regrets around 2 regrets. They didn't invest enough in relationships. They spent too much time at work, too much time away from family. They didn't cultivate friendships. They lost track of friends, lost touch with friends. And they weren't involved in stuff that was going to live on after them. That was one of their major regrets. So part of numbering our days is to give ourselves to things that are going to live on after us. So Brian Bosworth has learned that lesson. Here's what he said. It's not that I didn't know God or didn't have a relationship or an understanding of God. I knew the Lord. I just hated him. There was a feud and a grudge match because I felt he broke a promise we had and broke my trust. I'm not sure what he's referring to there, but that's how he felt about it. He felt God had made some kind of promise to him and didn't keep it. I would choose to ignore him. In my football days, the Boz was born. My pride became more than my agreement with God. That was me telling him I didn't need him anymore and being boastful of all the gifts I had. You think about it, what's a gift? A gift is something you receive. Where did he get these gifts? They were given to him by God. So they're his gifts. Yeah, he's got them. But who gave those gifts to him? Well, it was God, and that's what he eventually came to understand. You have to be humble and ask him for courage and wisdom, but I put me first and God last. I allowed people to guide me and my arrogance, and I used my ignorance to play through the pain, and getting a call that my career was over started my feud with God. So apparently he felt God had made some kind of promise to him about how long his football career would last, what he would be able to accomplish in football. When he injured his shoulder, all that came to a halt, but now he has come back full circle and reconnected with God. On the religious liberty front, here's a story out of Sonoma State in California. A student there has filed a religious accommodation request after she said she was ordered to remove her cross necklace because it might offend other students. Here, this is supposed to be the day of diversity and tolerance, right? And showed absolute exclusiveness toward her, absolute intolerance, no diversity, no inclusiveness as far as she was concerned. She's not included. You're not a part of this diversity that we're all about. You have to take that cross that you're wearing and you got to slip it inside your clothing so nobody can see it. And she was working at a student orientation fair when this happened for incoming freshmen. Now, you would think, you got to know, if you're at Sonoma State, you got to know you're going to have Christian students who are going to come to your campus as freshmen. What an encouraging thing it would be for them to see at least one person, one student at student orientation that wore a cross that was a symbol of Christian faith. It might make you feel welcome there rather than feeling excluded. It might be the thing that enables you to form a connection with your college experience and a sense of optimism and hope that you're going to find other people of like faith. So they have filed a formal religious accommodation request, which they absolutely should do. That's just totally inexcusable. Now, what's going on over in Texas right now, to give you some backstory here, and Jeff, I want to ask Jeff Reed, who's my producer and has done some kind of work on this issue. Jeff, bring us up to date on what is going on in Texas and take us back to the close of the legislative session. There was a pro-life bill that was in the pipeline. It was a bill that would prohibit abortions in the state of Texas after the 20th week when a baby begins to feel pain. We know from medical science that all of the pain receptors are developed in a child's body when they are 20 weeks along in gestation. They can feel pain. That's why when doctors operate on babies in the womb, and you've seen pictures of babies in the womb being operated on at 20, 22, 24 weeks, they anesthetize them. Why do they do that? Because they can feel pain. So don't let these pro-abortion folks lie to you and tell you that that's all nonsense. If it is, why do they anesthetize 20, 22-week-old babies in the womb when they're being operated on? So there was a bill that was going through the Texas legislature on the last day. And Jeff, tell us what happened on the last day of the legislative session there in Texas.
Well, Wendy Davis stood up and filibustered the bill. Actually, she was fitted with a catheter, a back brace, and was wearing some tennis shoes, which now pictures of that has now gone viral on the internet.
Those pink tennis shoes have become iconic now.
Yeah, and they made it to 12:01, which meant the bill expired. She was joined by a lot of rowdy protesters, kind of reminiscent of the thing that happened in Wisconsin with the mob rule coming in and just overtaking the Capitol building. And they're planning on doing it again because what is it that he...
Yeah, I think the governor's called a special session, bringing them back,
right.
And specifically for the purpose of moving this bill through.
Well, they're prepared for it. They've sent out a letter to a lot of the supporters, and they've set some guidelines. They've given them some advice on how to handle their social media and Facebook and how to handle trolls, but more specifically on what to do and how to behave within that building, in the Capitol building. The one thing that they emphasize over and over is do not show up intoxicated, to leave your drugs at home.
Jeff, I got to interject here. I mean, doesn't this tell you something about, I've been to a lot of Tea Party events.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever remember a single time where Tea Party attendees were instructed don't show up loaded to the gills. You didn't have to. There was a certain character and certain level of conduct and standard that you just expected of people at Tea Party events.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't even occur to you that we've got to tell these people, hey, don't shoot up before you come to a Tea Party event. Don't get drunk off your rocker before you come to a Tea Party event. Nobody would even think of doing that. So to me, that's kind of revealing about the kind of people that they know are going to be a part of this mob scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's also some recommendations in here to keep the swearing and vulgar language to a minimum.
Again, I've been to a lot of Tea Party events, and so they know they're dealing with people who are going to tend to do that. They're going to cut loose with a vulgar, profane volley of swear words. And look, you got to, and that cracks me up. So they didn't say cut it out altogether.
No,
they just said
just keep it to a minimum.
Keep it to a minimum.
Because they're a peaceful protest. They state that over and over that it's peaceful, and to stay calm. If you come across somebody of the opposition, in that case would be us, to make jokes, have a good time, but be firm. But if you do that calmly, that when you get arrested, that people may be more willing to bail you out. Not that they will, but they may be.
All right, so that's going on in Texas. I think the second day of the special session is taking place right now.
Hey, Brian, I've got a little audio. We can't do it right now.
Okay,
but,
coming out of the break?
Yeah,
all right.
That might be good.
Okay, we'll play that audio that Jeff's got for us from down there in Texas. And again, I think you got to give kudos to Governor Rick Perry. Ladies and gentlemen, the good thing here is we do have some lawmakers. Governor Rick Perry, I mean, he is pro-life and he means it. It's not a matter of political posturing for him. He's genuinely pro-life. He's called a special session just because these mobsters kind of torpedoed the democratic process at the end of the session. He says, we're not done. We're coming back. We're going to protect babies in the state of Texas. Special session, second day today. Focal Point AFR Talk, back with more. Stay with us.